Hello, good afternoon, welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Tammy Klein. Tammy is principal of Transport Energy, been a long time contact of mine, and we used to work together in the biofuels area. You're obviously very active in transport decarbonisation.
Yes.
You gave a masterclass, I think, on the Monday. It was very interesting to listen to that and get the overall picture of transport decarbonisation and where hydrogen fits into that.
Right.
So we can see, typically people just think of electric vehicles versus hydrogen and see that as a battle, but I think you raised a number of points that were very interesting, specifically around, I guess, biofuels. And so do you want to maybe unpick some of that sort of shifting landscape? And there's a lot happening there in transport.
Right. There's a lot of horses in the race, so to speak, and a lot of transport modes. I mean, one thing we know for sure is we are pushing forward and we're moving towards decarbonization. We have a pathway. U.S. is on the pathway now, especially with the enactment of the IRA. So it really opens up the field and the possibilities for hydrogen as it begins to scale up, as the standards come into place, as life cycle analyses are sort of decided, as the tax credits get implemented, the industry starts to scale up. We could see hydrogen competing with different fuel types like biofuels, but we also see biofuels needing hydrogen to help their decarbonization options, operations and improving their efficiency and their carbon footprint and lowering carbon intensity. So it's an interesting balance. And then the government has sort of clearly kind of decided, which fuel should go into which box in some sense. So they've decided that battery electric will be suited for the light duty fleet, for heavy duty trucking. Hydrogen is expected to play a large role, but it will compete with biofuels, I think, early on for that market. Same with aviation, sustainable aviation fuels, mainly bio-based in the beginning, transitioning in the 2040-ish time frame to hydrogen is the expectation. And then marine is sort of like an open field, of different fuel types, different options, that can play in the space. So there's sort of like what the government sees, and then there is sort of, what may be happening ultimately in the market.
And the biofuels lobby is interesting because of, I guess, the political strength that they have, and when it comes to the electoral cycle, there's a lot of power.
First caucus is still in Iowa.
Yeah, exactly.
For now.
Yeah. You see them being willing to give up their contribution to biofuels in road transport in order to enter new sectors, or they see biofuels want to expand their businesses like anyone else.
Oh yeah, so I think it's really important to get the various perspectives, and I appreciate that you are seeing that too, wanting to look at these different fuel types and how they fit into hydrogen. The short answer is, oh hell no. These people are not giving up 1 inch of market share that they don't absolutely have to. So what they'd love to see, on the gasoline fueled side of the equation, they would love, especially in the legacy fleet, to grow the blending. So right now we have E10 mainly in the market. E15 has been approved and will be launched or begin to be approved nationwide next year. The ethanol industry would love to see E20. They'd love to see E30 in that market. They'd love to not see the growth of electrification, but I think that's kind of a done deal with state and federal policies being what they are. And they want to grow new markets too. So one of the big ones is growing the sustainable aviation fuel market, both for the bio-based side of the coin, so hydrotreated vegetable oil or HEFA fuels, bio-based fuels for aviation, from vegetable oils and fats feedstocks. And then the corn ethanol guys would love to see the scale up of the alcohol to jet pathway for SAF. So they're not going to, and it's the same on the refining side. I mean, They want to grow renewable diesel in trucking or HVO. They want to grow the HEFA pathway. It's really just getting the feedstocks, and the onus will be on the refiners, I think, to find those those new feedstocks. Carinata, Covercress, Chevron, and others are investing in that area heavily. I think the need to stay in the market will push the scale up or the move toward alternative feedstocks faster than you might have seen before.
Yeah.
So yeah, the answer is, oh hell no. These people they're going to want to hang on to every inch of market. But the funny thing is, they will need hydrogen for decarbonization. So refiners like Repsol in Europe, they've already experimented with green hydrogen in their steam methane reforming process for the HVO that they produce. Other refiners are looking at that as well. The corn ethanol producers, other bio-based fuel producers are looking at green hydrogen to power their operations. So there's this tension where they are going to be a huge end user. The refiners will be a huge end user of hydrogen. I think we heard that from ExxonMobil yesterday, blue and then green. So they'll be a huge user, but they'll also be a competitor for these transport spaces as well. So it's an interesting dynamic.
And in terms of, I guess, hydrogen as a transport fuel, we're seeing that being pushed, obviously, as you said, to heavy trucking. Are we going to see some early sort of probably fleets go that have specific routes or routes, as you call it in the US, from distribution centers to distribution centers? Is that how you see potentially early adopters?
Well, I think we'll see the big guys, the big fleet users, UPS, DHL, Amazon, Walmart, begin to make the significant investments. I mean, they already are in the hydrogen space. It makes sense. The fueling infrastructure needs are quite different than electrification, where you've got to install charging and the truckers have to, it just doesn't make sense from a time and cost perspective. But for hydrogen, the infrastructure needs can be very distinct for typical routes, and that will allow them to invest ultimately, maybe beginning in this decade, but maybe post 2030, I would say more prolifically. It'll allow them to invest in the vehicles, the trucks, and it'll allow them to invest in the infrastructure. And they can control the infrastructure. It's contained. It's in particular routes along the way. It's not like the gas station network in the U.S. where there's 150,000 gas stations. We won't need that. They won't need that. And so it'll just come down to, playing with the options, testing it, just like they've done with the electric vehicle side of the equation, seeing which modes or which routes in which parts of the country make the most sense, like placing routes or investing in areas where around like the regional hydrogen hubs that are being planned. Like that could make sense. So they'll have to make all of that analysis, and I definitely see I see them looking at that ultimately, because for decarbonization, ultimate decarbonization and hitting net zero, probably the best option is going to be hydrogen down the road as it begins to scale up.
Takes you all the way, doesn't it?
Takes you all the way.
Yeah, and that's like clients like Amazon, that's what they want. They want to decarbonize their businesses. So
right.
Wholeheartedly agree. Fascinating as always to talk to you, Tammy. Thanks a lot for the
You too.
contributions.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's great.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks.